You said Bezos was customer obsessed. I think Jack Ma you'd call relentless.
Both have dominated the market in their own ways.
We're here to talk about Amazon and Alibaba.
That's it. What were we doing? Instead of selling things and buying things on Amazon in our early university years, we should have been buying Amazon.
The question is, will they continue to grow?
Hero or sidekick?
Welcome to the Sidekick podcast, where we uncover the hidden superpowers of some of the biggest and fastest growing companies and successful business people in the world. I'm Bryce and I'm joined by my co-host Ren, and we are your trusty sidekicks. Ren, how are you?
I'm very good, Bryce. Very excited to talk about two of the world's fastest growing companies. Well, previously fastest growing companies. The question is, will they continue to grow? We're here to talk about Amazon and Alibaba.
That's it. They are both two giants of the retail and e-commerce space, and both have dominated the market in their own ways. And today we are comparing the superpowers that drive these two conglomerates to such dominance and success, and the ways that they converge and the ways that they differ. So we should probably start with a bit of a snapshot and to set the scene on who these companies actually are, if the listeners haven't heard of them. So let's start with Alibaba.
Okay, so it's one of China's biggest companies. It is an e-commerce giant. Measured by market capitalization or market value, it's the fourth largest company in China, at least at time of recording. It operates a number of big business segments, starting with online retail. Alibaba.com is the flagship. It's a business-to-business online retailer, about 80% of its retail sales. Mm-hmm. But it's got Taobao, which is customer-to-customer. It's like a eBay style platform, and also Tmall, which is business to customer, B2C. And we should say AliExpress, which is now global B2C.
Yes.
Then, much like Amazon, we'll get to Amazon, but it has a cloud computing and AI division as well. It's got financial services, AntPay, important part of the business, which we'll talk about. And then it's got a long tail of companies that we've called other.
Yes.
It's got everything from entertainment, it's got live ticketing, Ali Music, Ali Pictures Group. It's got Ali Health. It bought the South China Morning Post, the newspaper. It's got a tourism division. It's got this platform called Phase2 that allows tourism operators to sell to tourists in China. It's a pretty sprawling conglomerate at this point.
It's huge. Yeah. I was telling you before we started recording that my first experience with Alibaba.com was actually through buying incredibly cheap sunglasses while I was in university. Nice. And on-selling them to other university kids, which was quite profitable at the time.
Now, there we go. That's a whole other Sidekick episode. To give you a sense of its market value, so in US dollars, it's about a $300 billion company. It does about $130 billion US dollars a year in revenue and about $11 billion US dollars a year in profit. Now, over the last 10 years, it's only up 56%. But if you actually look under the hood, about 10 years ago, it was trading at about $80 a share, ran up to about $300. But the China story has been a really difficult story in the last few years. And down from $300, it's back, dropped below $100. It's now back a little bit over $100. But yeah, it lost 2/3 of its value in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, let's move across to Amazon. Slightly different story when it comes to stock market performance over the last 10 years, but we'll start with what it is. Obviously, you will probably know it as the e-commerce giant, huge reach globally. It divides its business into three segments. So they've got North America, International, and AWS. Now, the North America and International segments include sort of sub-businesses. So it's all of their subscription businesses, their advertising business, online and in-store retail businesses. And then their third is the Amazon Web Services, which is the leading cloud computing infrastructure service in the world and has been a real, driver of shareholder returns over the last few years.
Yeah, well, to speak to some of the numbers, $638 billion a year in revenue, which is what, $1 trillion Aussie dollars.
It's crazy.
About $60 billion a year in profit.
Wow.
So like an order of magnitude larger than Alibaba. And in terms of share price performance over the past 10 years, it's up 940%. Which is about 27% compound annual growth rate. So incredible.
What were we doing? Instead of selling things and buying things on Amazon in our early university years, we should have been buying Amazon.
2015.
Yeah.
I was still at uni.
Just finishing
You had
uni.
just started. No, you were
Just
yeah,
finishing
yeah,
my
yeah.
last year, yeah.
Anyway,
lesson learned.
I think the last thing to note is just customer numbers. Amazon has about 310 million shoppers worldwide. I reckon that's undercooked because they have 220 million Amazon Prime subscribers.
Yeah.
So I think that ratio should be larger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's more than 90 million people that shop on Amazon but aren't a Prime subscriber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Alibaba reports 1.3 billion annual active customers.
Now, Ren, success for both of these companies was not, I guess, predetermined. It wasn't built into their destiny because they weren't the only e-commerce companies that were recognizing that the internet was going to change retail. So the question is, and what we are going to now unpack, is why were Amazon and Alibaba able to succeed when others were not?
Yeah, that is the point of this show, to unpack the superpowers of these generational companies. And I think the first superpower we want to identify is where they started. Because whether by luck or by foresight, they were incredibly strategic about where they started their businesses. So let's start with Amazon. Books were a deliberate choice. We know that now that Bezos has said that he was at D.E. Shaw working in New York in finance, and he realized that the internet was growing at a rate that was unprecedented and he wanted to be part of it. And he did the analysis to figure out what he wanted to sell online. Because there were heaps of other highly touted online retailers in the 90s. Pets.com, ever heard of it?
Yeah.
The poster child of
Yes,
the
for the
.com
crash,
bubble.
yeah.
Selling pet supplies. Webvan was a big one. They raised a lot of money to sell groceries online. Boo.com was a fashion house. But books were this vertical where online had a strong comparative advantage over physical retail. As Amazon pitched itself early days, the world's largest bookstore.
Yeah.
They had a catalog of books that no physical bookseller, no physical retailer could match.
We said every book.
Yeah.
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 He was like, you cannot beat this.
Well, that makes it the world's largest
Yeah.
bookstore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was reading some early articles where people were trying to take Amazon down, and they were saying Amazon only has a tiny warehouse, and then they have to order these like long tail of books from wholesalers, much like physical booksellers do. And so really they're not actually that much larger. They don't have any advantage. But in the customer's mind, there was the difference. They didn't see how things worked out. They just ordered a book and it arrived. And it was the right place to start, I think is the first takeaway. They also were a good one for online delivery,
E-commerce,
durable, small.
Yeah.
And so unlike trying to deliver fresh groceries,
Yeah.
where it's time sensitive and fragile, this was one where there were decent enough margins, it was shippable, it was cost effective. And so targeting the right vertical is part of the Amazon story. It's also part of the Alibaba story.
Yeah, so they decided rather than B2C, they would start with B2B. So the internet first arrived in China in 1994 and Alibaba launched soon after in 1999. It did have plenty of competitors, a couple that you may not have heard of. Dang Dang, 8848 and Joyo were around at the same time, but they'd all launched as B2C or business to consumer or customer, whereas Alibaba decided that it would go B2B. Because early adopters of the internet were really businesses, and so there was a larger customer segment that they could go after rather than trying to go after a low penetration when it came to the consumer side of things.
Yeah. And look, that being said, other Chinese players quickly moved into the B2B space. 8848 sold its B2C unit by December 2000, so a year and a bit after it launched. And if we go back to America, like other e-commerce websites were selling books. In fact, the Internet Bookshop launched in 1994, a year before Amazon launched for public sales. So like that isn't a good enough explanation as to why these companies were successful early days, picking the right vertical. And I think that leads to the second superpower, which is the founders themselves.
Well, let's start with Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, and he is very well known to have an incredible focus on customer and an obsession with the customer. He's got a couple of famous quotes. He said, "We've focused like a laser on the customer experience. We are not competitor obsessed. We are customer obsessed. We start with what the customer needs and we work backwards. And there's plenty of stories about how that translates into the Amazon's internal operations.
Well, give us some of those.
Well, so he insisted on having an empty chair in a meeting to
Yeah.
remind everyone that the customer was there.
Yes.
To focus on the customer. He made sure that he encouraged everyone to write 6-page memos. So
Yeah.
there was no presentations or anything.
No slides.
No slides.
My dream.
Your dream. You would walk into a meeting. Whoever was hosting the meeting would give a 6-page memo. You were to read it all and then discuss.
Yeah, sit silently while everyone read the memo.
I'm a slow reader, so that would be very hard. And they had a day one philosophy, which really was him trying to encourage continuous innovation and agility, regardless of how big that business got. He really wanted to ensure that they were just focusing on the customer every day.
There's a lot of not hype, but like the Warren Buffett letters are really lauded in the investing space as like a really good place to start as an investor. If people are interested in running their own business, I would highly recommend the early Bezos letters when he went public in like the late 90s. Some of those letters, especially around the ultimate hype of the dot-com bubble and the crash, I think really good entrepreneurs' guides for starting and scaling businesses, because he was customer obsessed and he was obsessed about the right metrics and he didn't get caught up in the hype. He raised money at the right time and he managed it through the dark days and
a long-term view.
Yeah.
So that's Bezos. What was it about Jack Ma?
So if you said Bezos was customer obsessed, I think Jack Ma you'd call relentless. And not in the hustle culture, bro culture that you see on Instagram, but just stoically not giving up. So Jack Ma was an English teacher turned entrepreneur, but I think if you look at his history, it's a history of failure. So let me give you some of the highlights. At age 18 in 1982, he failed his college entrance exam. Then he applied for a job at a nearby hotel as a waiter, and he was told he was too skinny, too short, and had a bad physical appearance. Brutal rejection. He then tried to get into college the next year, failed his entrance exams again. The year after, failed his entrance exams again 3 times. His family were trying to convince him to give up on going to college. You're not going to make it. He was able to find a back way into university after an enrollment target at a university's Department of English wasn't met. So they had they didn't have enough, so they would just he managed to get in that way. After graduation, he applied to Harvard Business Schools 10 times, was rejected each time. At the same time, he was applying for jobs, applied for 31 different entry-level jobs, was rejected by all of them. He was even rejected by a KFC. He later told Charlie Rose in an interview, 24 people went for the jobs available. 23 people were hired.
What was this guy saying?
He
in
was the
interviews?
only one rejected. Like just a history of failure, but he was relentless. He discovered the internet in 1994, and he had been to Australia, he had been to America, so like he'd had some exposure. But in 1994, the internet comes to China. He's very early on it, and there's this story. He and a friend made an ugly website about beer in China.
Afternoon beer
They launched it at 9:40 in the morning. By 12:30, they were getting hit up by investors.
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine that fundraising environment. But then, so they realized there was money to be made in the internet. And you think about, Netscape goes public in 95 in the US. Like people see that as like the starting point for the internet.com bubble. Like people were seeing what was happening with the internet. So then they go on to found their first internet startup in 1995, Hangzhou Hope Computer Services, which operated an online yellow pages for Chinese companies. They sell that a couple of years later, and then he starts Alibaba.
Wow.
Relentless.
And then goes on to be one of, if not the richest man in China. Or he was.
Certainly at points he would have been, yeah. Well, I mean, aside from Xi Jinping.
Wow. Yes. True. So let's talk about the growth of these companies, because superpower number 3 is around their opportunistic and innovative cultures that has led to just some incredible share price growth over the years. So the stories of both of these companies' culture has been well told, but let's cover it off. Starting with Amazon, and let's have a look at some of the innovation that has occurred over the years from when it started as a bookstore.
Yeah. I think for both of them, they were just willing to experiment a lot. So let's go through some of the highlights and lowlights from Amazon. You tell me highlight or lowlight.
Easy.
Okay. So Amazon launched Marketplace in 2000, which allowed third-party sellers.
Highlight from a business, low light for the sellers, I think.
Well, no, they connected with huge volumes of customers.
Sorry, I think it. Yeah, but
A lot of those businesses wouldn't exist if it wasn't for.
Yeah, but I think how they're treated is interesting.
Okay, we'll save that for another day. It was highly people were so astonished that Amazon would open up this relationship they have with customers to third-party sellers at the time. But I think it's been unmitigated success for Amazon.
Yes.
How about this? Prime in 2005. It was the pioneer of a subscription model. At this stage, it was just about free and faster delivery.
Yeah, that was a highlight. Unbelievable. Changed the e-commerce industry.
Yeah. Really took the Costco model of subscription and brought it to online retail.
Blew people away.
How about this one? Amazon Web Services launched in 2006.
Huge highlight.
I think the story here is amazing. So Andy Jassy was working as he was shadowing Bezos as like an assistant sort of thing. And he realized that they had heaps of unused server capacity and just pitched it as an idea that why don't we rent it out to other businesses.
Yeah.
It was just an idea that is probably one of the best businesses in the world at the moment.
Definitely, yeah.
And amazing that like an online e-commerce retailer coming just out of the .com crash and the dark years since then became this web services.
Yeah, well, and also that they allowed that type of
innovation.
Yeah.
What about this? Launched the Kindle in 2007. Highlight. Created Prime Video in 2008.
Highlight. Love Prime Video.
Amazon Local in 2011.
Not familiar with this.
Yeah, you wouldn't be because they shuttered it.
Okay.
It was similar to Groupon where you could like get discount codes and stuff like that. There is also an argument that many of these tech companies, certainly Amazon, certainly Alibaba, saw companies that were being successful with certain things and tried to
pull them under.
Netflix was going well, Prime Video gets launched. Groupon was going well, Amazon Local gets launched. But that is that's part of the story.
That's business.
Yeah. Buys Kiva Systems. Now this one less known, but it's a robotics company focused on factory automation. Bought them in 2012, and it just was another step towards just revolutionizing their supply chain and their warehouse automation. The Fire Phone, 2014.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it didn't exist for long.
Okay.
But again, they saw the success of the iPhone. This was the era where everyone tried to do a phone. Yeah. Remember the Windows Phone? Yeah. Fire Phone did not do well. What about Alexa? Also launched in 2014.
Look, I don't rate it, but I feel like a lot of people do.
Yeah. I don't know if people do, but anyway, it's still going 11 years later. Amazon Destinations launched in 2014.
Booked anything through them.
You wouldn't, because I don't think it exists anymore.
Okay, good.
Autonomous driving in 2020, they buy the Australian company Zoox.
Small player.
Yeah. Still love that Australians are in the game. And then Prime Air in 2022.
They have an airline?
Well, they do own a number of planes, or lease a number of planes and operate them. But no, this is their drone delivery fleet.
Right. Oh, yeah. And now they're also heavily into AI. I don't know if they've bought entirely Anthropic, but they're a massive backer to add to the final, most recent.
And look, that is just scratched the surface of their history of innovation. But like the point is that it's weird and wonderful, but they're willing to throw a lot of stuff on the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Here's the weirdest thing we found as we were preparing for this episode. Askville by Amazon, launched in 2006, was a question and answer site like Quora. Do you know that?
Yes.
Like, what are they doing? They're a bookseller. But they're willing to try anything, really. Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at Alibaba because it is somewhat of a similar story. In 2003, they spun out the B2C platform Taobao. And then Alipay came along in 2004. This is their online payment system that has really I guess, revolutionized the way people transact over in China.
Well, yeah, it's the largest digital payment platform in the world.
There you go. Alibaba Cloud came along in 2009.
Some may argue that 3 years after Amazon Web Services launched. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure everyone has heard about Singles Day. So they launched that in 2009. It was a pre-existing holiday that Alibaba's CEO, Daniel Zhang, capitalized on. It is now the largest physical and online retail shopping day in the world, reaching a record $139 billion in sales in China in 2021. So it's incredible, and that's now flown through, flows through to Australia as well. If you compare that to the Black Friday sales of just over $100 billion.
And that's physical and online.
Yeah.
Black Friday, yeah.
AliExpress in 2010, it took Alibaba and made it international and made it for retail. MyBank was in 2015, where they do small business loans. They've served upwards of 29 million customers since launching. And then Alibaba's AI innovations, they've launched Tongyi, a large language model, and they also released an AI model that is open sourced in August 2023. And most recently, another open source model, WAN 2.1, which is a text-to-video AI tool. A lot going on.
So, look, we're not going to be able to summarize 30 years of growth for these two giants in this podcast. But I think what we want to illustrate is you add these three superpowers together. So you start with starting in the right vertical and finding a way to get profitable there. And then you add relentless and entrepreneurial founders that really drive the company. And then you add those founders fostering a culture of innovation that allows employees to try things, to fail, and when they succeed, to double down on that success. Like, those are some of the recipes that really get us to sort of the companies today.
Well, that's a great place to leave it. We're going to take a quick break and on the other side unpack the superpowers of both of these companies as they are today. We'll be right back. This series wouldn't be possible without the support from Superhero.
Superhero Super is a low-fee, award-winning super fund with a wide range of investment options and the flex to invest directly into ASX-listed shares, ETFs, and more. Superhero Super is primed for performance. Superhero also won the 2024 Excellent Rates and Fees and Best for Direct Investment Awards by WeMoney Superannuation.
Now remember, Superhero does not provide financial advice, so consider whether their product is right for you. Read their PDS and TMD and download the Superhero app at superhero.com.au. Interests in Superhero Super are issued by Diversa Trustees Limited as trustee of One Super. Superhero Super is a subplan of One Super. Welcome back to Sidekick. We are talking about Alibaba and Amazon, two giants in e-commerce. And we're up to superpower number 4, Ren, which is the superpower of today, their market power, market dominance.
As much as we probably don't like to talk about this as a superpower of business, unfortunately, winners can really entrench themselves as winners, and in ways that are both just like they can double down on advantages and also find ways to block challenges. But let's start with Amazon, because its global reach and its global logistics network is now unparalleled. So it's got 175 fulfillment centers around the world, and that might not feel like a lot until you see what their fulfillment centers look like. You know, the one in Sydney is the size of 2 football fields. Just a massive logistics network. They've also vertically integrated a lot of their logistics network. So over the years, they've relied less on third-party logistics players and more in-house. You know, you start with delivery vans and you know, well, I guess you actually start with, rather than third-party warehouses, you start warehousing yourself. But to the point now where it's, you know, ocean freight and air freight, and they really can sort of move things around the world in their own supply chains. They ship to more than 100 countries, and the biggest challenge in logistics is last mile. And they are trying to innovate in that space. No one's nailed it, but, you know, delivery lockers, Amazon Key, in-home deliveries. They bought Ring, which I think is part of that, the video doorbell company, the most successful Shark Tank innovation of all time.
I've seen it.
None of the sharks invested in it. They sold for $1 billion to Amazon. But, you know, all this stuff, at-home parcel lockers, it's all just to make that last mile more efficient. But it's things that no competitor has the balance sheet to do at
Yes.
this point.
Yeah.
Amazon Air, we mentioned they have a fleet of 75 aircraft that they own or they lease and operate. Somewhat unsurprisingly, given this whole run-up, it's now become the number one delivery company in the US. In 2023, it overtook both FedEx and UPS.
That is wild. And what it has led to is it is the world's largest retailer, as we spoke about. It's the 5th largest company in the world by market cap. North America is the largest contributor to its revenue with $387 billion, roughly 60% of total revenue, where it absolutely dominates the market with a just shy 40% market share of total e-commerce sales. Internationally, they generate $143 billion in revenue. And just like Alibaba has Singles Day, they have dominance of the Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I guess, spending holidays, really. Yeah. So let's have a look at Alibaba, Ren. And really the story here in terms of market power is its absolute stronghold and domination of the Asian market. So unlike Amazon with North America, Alibaba has over 50% of all online retail sales in China. Its cloud computing business in Asia holds a leading position in the Chinese market as well, with a 36% share and expanding its services across Asia. So a very similar story.
Yeah, and I think if we said the 4.1 subpoint for Amazon was dominance in America, just because it's such a powerful market and the ability, like so many consumers and so large that if you dominate that market, you can spit off enough cash to generate to invest around the world. Alibaba, so sub 4.2. If you can dominate Asia, you can have a government that can protect you.
True.
A couple of years ago, Tencent was wrapped right up in the video game crackdown. But Alibaba's history has been like, it's been the pride of China. It's been a dominant player. The government has protected it. It's stopped Western companies coming in and competing with it. And now with this AI push, it's another example where DeepSeek, Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent are going to get a lot of government support because there's like national interest for China in trying to dominate this category. So I'm not sure how that you build that into like a DCF or into an investment case, but I think it's important to stress that it is part of the superpower that powers Alibaba today. Is that, Amazon and eBay and all of them have tried to compete in China and have been blocked, essentially.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to superpower number 5, which is using this market dominance they have. They've been able to create ecosystems where their customers can really operate within a number of different products that they offer, reducing their needs to really go elsewhere with the result of that being better customer retention.
Yeah, think of it like a flywheel. Like they get a customer, they satisfy them, the customer then signs up to some offer, which then allows them to reinvest in their pricing or their product, which satisfies the customer and attracts more customers, which allows them to build out their subscription and make it more attractive. They get more subscriptions, allows them to reinvest in their price. That flywheel has been like the beauty of Amazon Prime. And that ecosystem really exists for both of them. But let's start with Amazon.
So they've built a direct consumer-centric ecosystem. So it started from very early days where they expanded from books to now what they call the everything store in the sort of late 1990s, early 2000s. And this expansion was really motivated by that individual customer needs and convenience experience. We've spoken about Prime memberships being the core of this customer-centric system. That really changed the way online shopping was viewed and Amazon shopping online. There are now 220 Prime subscribers, the majority of which are based in the US.
Well, not 160 million of the Prime subscribers are based in the US.
Crazy.
The population of the US is less than 350.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's like almost half the population.
Yeah.
And think about like household formation. Like if you and Harriet you're married, you're living in a house together. Do both of you have a Prime subscription?
No.
Yeah. So you're saying like the majority of households in America have a Prime subscription
Because it's so good.
I mean, it is good, and I think that is the point, and that was the flywheel point that. They make more money, they get more customers, that allows them to reinvest more in making it even better, to the point where they just keep breaking their own records about the amount of parcels they've delivered same day or next day. Here in Australia in 2024, they delivered more than 40 million items either same day or next day, which was up 40% year on year. It is that Prime experience. And then like all the stuff you throw in around it, Prime Video, are like cherries on top, but like being the trusted retail platform where you know the stuff will be good enough quality, but you'll get it next day.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I now sometimes don't order stuff on Amazon because it'll come home. It'll come too quickly.
Yeah.
I need to wait and order it so the next day I'll be home to get it.
And that's it. And the fact that you know that that's going to happen, that's awesome.
An October 2024 report found that 76% of Amazon shoppers, and this is globally, not just Australia, reported making multiple purchases on Amazon each month. 54% reported several times each month. 22% reported making purchases weekly.
Wow.
Locking people into their ecosystem, capturing them with this subscription offering and making them repeat customers, like that has been Amazon's power.
Definitely. And then the way to probably think about the ecosystem of Alibaba is a little bit different, Ren. So we know they've got their B2B business in Alibaba.com, but then they have their financing business, which finances the businesses that are on Alibaba.com. And then they can also service the customers of the businesses with their retail-facing lending as well. So a bit of an ecosystem where everyone benefits.
Yeah, as you said, they've got that My Bank where they've written, almost 30 million small business loans, and then they can help customers finance purchases with AntPay. And then they supply small businesses as well. So they've become a real, ecosystem play, but for the small businesses in China rather than from the consumer side. A final point of that small business network is they help small Chinese businesses sell globally as well with AliExpress and the like. And so in the same way that Amazon traps us as customers in their network, traps is probably a pejorative term, but they certainly trap us. They certainly capture us. Alibaba captures China's small business community in their ecosystem and provides values at a number of points in the chain to keep them in there. So I think that's really the comparison. And then on top of that, they both have incredible web services and AI businesses, cherries on top.
Yes.
So let's wrap it up. We've identified 5 superpowers for these businesses. What have we got?
So it started with both of them targeting the right place to start, the right vertical that's going to give them the right foundation to grow. They had 2 founders. One was relentless. The other was very entrepreneurial. That are, I guess they're
probably both. They're both relentless.
One was relentless. One was incredibly customer focused.
Bezos has been relentless in the gym in the years
He has been. What's he on? Which led to very innovative and entrepreneurial cultures. And then what we see today are 2 conglomerates that have incredible market power that has also allowed them to create ecosystems that offer multiple benefits to their customers to keep their customers spending within their businesses.
Yeah. So that does it for Alibaba and Amazon, 2 incredible businesses in their own right, often compared as the American and Chinese versions of each other. But as we've learned, they're not quite the same. Different focuses, B2C, B2B, but the Venn diagrams certainly overlap more and more as they get bigger and bigger. So if you have a company or a pair of companies that you want us to compare, let us know. And if you're interested in growing your wealth like a superhero, head to superhero.com.au.
Make sure you subscribe to Sidekick wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. But that's it from us, your trusty sidekicks. We'll be back next episode uncovering more superpowers.